In the next 20 minutes, I'll give you the exact 3-step method that will turn your anger about right and wrong into real power, without giving up what you believe. You'll learn the simple daily habit that leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela used to avoid the trap that's making people ignore what you have to say right now. By the end of this video, you'll know how to stand for what's right in a way that pulls people toward you instead of pushing them away, making your voice much stronger overnight. This isn't about being nicer. It's about finding a kind of moral power that 99% of people fighting for good causes never find, and it will change how people listen to you right away. This isn't about politics. It's not about religion. It's about something much older and more dangerous. The shadow that grows behind anyone who fights for what's right. The shadow no one talks about. Think about the last time you felt totally sure you were right. The hot feeling in your face, the angry pride. How good it felt to be so clear about right and wrong. It felt good, didn't it? Too good. That's your first warning sign. Your sureness isn't wisdom. It's like a drug. The old Greeks had a name for this change. Hubris. The pride that comes before the fall. They knew something we've forgotten, that our best traits, when pushed too far, become our worst flaws. You've seen it happen to others. The person fighting for change who gets so stiff they can't see the human in those who don't agree. The person hunting for truth whose search turns into fear of plots. The person hurt by wrong whose anger turns into a poison that ruins everything they touch. But have you seen it happening in you? Take a breath. Look at what's been happening inside you, not just around you. Here's the scary question that will follow you. What if the very fight that gives your life meaning is slowly making your soul empty? Let me show you what happens when the shadow of being right grows unchecked. You start seeing it in small ways first. Friends slowly drift away. They just don't get it, you tell yourself. They don't care enough to stand up for what matters. But it's more than that, isn't it? The truth is, people are starting to stay away from you. You're not losing friends. You're trading them for the good feeling of being more right. Your talks mostly focus on what's wrong with the world. Your passion for justice has become a loop of anger that never ends. Each new wrong adds another brick to the wall you're building, not just against the bad guys, but against anyone who doesn't care exactly as much as you do. Remember when you used to laugh easily? When talks could jump from deep to fun? When was the last time you felt truly light? There's a lonely feeling to being right that no one warned you about. A heavy feeling. You carry the weight of every wrong you've seen, listing them, using them as armor. And while this armor keeps you from being part of the problem, it also keeps you from really connecting with others, even those you love most. Your armor has become your jail cell. Look at what you post online, the comments, the fights, the threads where you had to have the last word. Did they change anything? Or did they just feed something hungry inside you? Who gets to walk away when you can't let go? Who sleeps well while you lie awake, scrolling, looking for the next battle? Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you've felt this tired feeling, this weight of carrying rightness like a heavy cross that gets heavier each day. And ask yourself, what would happen if you put it down, even for a moment? What part of yourself might you find again? A smart man named Nietzsche warned us about this very change. When you fight monsters, be careful you don't become a monster. When you look long into a dark pit, the dark pit also looks into you. You didn't beat the monster. You became it. This isn't just fancy talk. It's a truth about how people work that we've seen through all of history, from the French Revolution eating its own friends to cancel culture today, crushing the very voices it once tried to help. The old stories got this pattern. In Greek myths, Nemesis wasn't just the goddess of getting even. She was the force that punished those who got too proud, with too much rightness. She kept balance when humans became too sure they were right. Every hero who lost sight of their human side while chasing justice, eventually met nemesis on their path. Pause. Think about how this pattern might be playing out in your own life. Look at the pattern of the good warrior who becomes what they hate. It shows up in every culture's old stories. The shadow, the parts of us we deny, grows strongest exactly when we're most sure we're right. Think of rightness as a sword with two edges. One edge cuts through wrong with clarity. The other edge, if we're not careful, slowly cuts our link to our own human heart. Here's a picture that shows this change. Think of a clear pool of water. This is your moral clarity at the start. Now picture stirring that pool hard, over and over, with angry rightness. What happens? The mud rises. The water gets cloudy. Soon, you can't even see your own face anymore. Your rightness didn't make you clearer. It made you cloudier. This clouding happens so slowly that we rarely notice it in ourselves. We think we're still serving justice, still standing for truth. But something basic has shifted. Our rightness is no longer about healing the world. It's about proving we're good, about being right. A man named Eric Hoffer studied this pattern. He saw how easily the hurt can become the ones who hurt when armed with total sureness. A cause, he wrote, isn't kept alive by defending what's right, but by showing that others are wrong. You don't fight for justice anymore. You fight to be right. This isn't about giving up what you believe. It's about seeing the change that happens when being right becomes who you are. When the need to be right becomes more important than the need to be whole. The most dangerous part of this change is that it feels like growth, not going bad. Each step toward the shadow feels right, needed, even good. That's why it's so tricky. Take another breath. Feel the weight of what you've been carrying. Let me trace this change step by step, using a picture that will help us see it. The sword of justice. At first, you pick up this sword with shaking hands. You've seen something wrong, something that cuts against what you deeply value. Maybe it was done to you. Someone looked down on you, betrayed you, used power against you. Or maybe it was done to others, keeping people down, hurting the earth, dirty politics. You chose to take a stand because you had courage and care. The sword feels right in your hands. Your cause is just. Your heart is pure. But as you swing this sword against the dark, something begins to change. With each swing, the blade gets heavier. With each battle, you must grip it tighter. Being right means always watching. It demands being sure. The world is full of people who give in. You can't afford to be one of them. Your battle cry became your prison sentence. This is where the change speeds up, where the right warrior begins to change into its shadow form, the right tyrant. The right tyrant sees enemies everywhere. They split the world into simple groups, the good and the bad, the woke and the blind, the friends and the foes. Seeing grey areas becomes weakness. Doubt becomes betrayal, even doubting yourself. You can't afford to pause when facing wrong, the tyrant whispers. And it sounds so true, so needed. But here's what the tyrant doesn't tell you. Without doubt, without being humble, without the ability to question your own rightness, you've lost the very human part you're trying to defend. Your sureness isn't strength, it's blindness. I see this pattern playing out in our world all the time. People who began with real hurts, with true moral worries, slowly changing into mirror images of what they fight. The words change, the methods change, but the deeper pattern, the total sureness, the making enemies of those who don't agree, the holy anger, becomes just like those they fight against. You don't need to explain why you stand against real wrong, but you do owe yourself the promise to stay human while doing so. Now let me share the exact 3-step method that will turn your anger about right and wrong into real power without giving up what you believe. Step 1. Split who you are from what you fight for. The first step is to make space between who you are and what you stand for. This isn't about caring less. It's about carrying your cause differently. When your whole self becomes wrapped in your rightness, you feel every challenge as a personal attack. This makes you defensive, stiff, and in the end, not very effective. Here's the daily habit. Each morning, ask yourself this question: who am I beyond my cause? Spend 5 minutes writing or thinking about the parts of you that exist outside your fight. Your creativity, your joy, your friends, your wonder. This simple habit, used by moral leaders through history, creates mental room to respond rather than react. It's how you can be flexible without giving up what matters. When your worth isn't tied to your rightness, you can stand firmer without breaking. Step 2. Seek to understand before being understood. The second step changes how you talk with those who don't agree. Most people fighting for good causes make the same big mistake. They try to convince others before truly getting what those others believe. Here's the habit that will change everything. Before saying your view in any talk about right and wrong, first say back the other person's view in words they would agree with. Not to mock it, not to tear it down, but to truly get it. This isn't about saying harmful views are okay. It's about showing you see the human behind the opinion. This is exactly what made King and Mandela so powerful. They understood their opponent's fears and needs with amazing clarity. When people feel seen, their walls come down. When walls come down, real influence becomes possible. You gain nothing by understanding less about those you want to change. Step 3. Connect values before talking about actions. The final step is the game changer most people miss completely. Before talking about what someone did wrong, connect with the values they think they're standing for. Ask yourself, what good do they think they're doing? What value do they think they're protecting? Find that connection point, however small, and talk about it first. This doesn't mean saying harmful actions are okay. It means seeing that most people, even those causing harm, believe they're protecting something important: safety, tradition, freedom, family. The daily habit is simple. Before each talk about justice, find one value you might share with the person you're trying to convince. Start with that connection. This is how you turn opponents into possible allies instead of harder enemies. Bridges of shared values can hold the weight of hard truths. These 3 steps, splitting who you are from your cause, seeking to understand before being understood, and connecting values before talking about actions, create a completely different kind of moral power. One that pulls people in rather than pushes them away. This isn't about watering down your message. It's about sharing it in a way that can actually be heard. Now you understand the 3-step method that turns rightness into real power. Split who you are from what you fight for. Seek to understand before being understood. Connect values before talking about actions. This method isn't about giving up your fight for justice. It's about making that fight work instead of backfiring. The real power of this approach is that it fixes both the inner and outer changes needed. Inside, you'll escape the tired, lonely feeling of rigid rightness. Outside, you'll find yourself having talks that actually move people, instead of just pushing them further away. Remember that image of yourself, with the shaking hands and the fire in your eyes. That person fighting so hard for what's right that they've forgotten how to feel peace. Now picture that person taking a deep breath, putting down the heavy armor of being so sure. Not forever, but just long enough to remember their own human heart. Your power isn't in your armor, it's in your wholeness. This isn't giving up, it's strength of a different kind. The strength to fight for justice without being eaten up by the fight. The wisdom to see that your moral clarity works best when it comes from a place of wholeness rather than woundedness. The old virtues of balance and care weren't weakness. They were the guardrails that kept justice from turning into revenge. They weren't against rightness. They were its needed friends. When you find yourself gripped by righteous anger, ask yourself, Am I fighting against something or fighting for something? The difference may seem small, but it changes everything. Fighting against makes enemies. Fighting for makes possibilities. Your anger isn't wrong. It's not complete. You can hold your moral beliefs with both strength and grace. You can stand firm for justice without becoming brittle in your rightness. You can face the shadow side of your own goodness without betraying what matters most. Leave a comment below with this pledge. I choose influence over rightness. Make this your reminder when the shadow begins to grow, when being sure hardens into something that no longer serves the very values you're fighting for. This method for turning rightness into influence is just the beginning. In our next video, I'll show you how to use these 3 steps in real life, from family fights to social media debates to community organizing. If you've ever felt drained by constant moral battles, if you've noticed people tuning you out even when you know you're right, hit subscribe now. This channel is creating a roadmap for those who want to make real change without burning out or becoming less effective. Your change doesn't end with awareness, it starts there. Next week, we'll dive deeper into the daily habits that help you keep this balance. You'll learn exact phrases that moral leaders use to lower defenses and open minds. We'll look at real-world examples of people who've turned hostile crowds into allies using these exact steps. This isn't about giving up your values. It's about making them more effective in the real world. It's about becoming the kind of person who creates lasting change rather than just temporary noise. Subscribe now and hit the bell to continue this journey toward a more powerful form of justice, one that heals rather than just fights. Perhaps the deepest truth about being right is one we rarely think about. The sword of justice cuts both ways. It has to, because if we don't hold ourselves to the rules we put on others, we've already lost what we're fighting for. Your rightness was never your prison. Your blindness to its shadow was. There's a strange beauty in this puzzle, that the moment we believe we're beyond questioning is the moment we betray our deepest values. That our moral beliefs work best, not when they separate us from others, but when they reconnect us to our shared humanity. In the quiet moments, when the righteous armor is set aside, ask yourself, what would justice look like if it came from my wholeness rather than my woundedness, from connection rather than division? The answer won't come as a righteous statement. It will come in the silence between certainties, in the space where you're brave enough to be human first, fighter second. The truest defenders of justice through history understood this puzzle. They fought not because they were sure of their own rightness, but because they were sure of our common humanity. The shadow fades not when we deny it, but when we bring it into the light. Not when we put it on others, but when we claim it as our own. Your rightness isn't killing you, but your refusal to see its shadow might be. This is the lasting challenge of the righteous heart, to fight for justice without becoming that which justice stands against.